WoolieCottage.com. Go lie down, dogs. Right, so while they settle down, I am dyeing yarns today for listing for next week. So I've got various different ones. I'll wait a few minutes before I go into further details. But I've got chunky, 4-ply, chunky 4-ply and a sports weight as well, I think. And I have got a yarn that I thought it'd be nice to show you how, if you've got a yarn at home and you're not really keen on it, it's not quite how you thought it was going to look or turn out when you've been messing around with your own wool at home. So I thought a bit of over dyeing later on as well. So yeah, so at the moment I have got 2 skeins, different ones in this tray. Hold on a second, I'll try and lift you up a little bit. 1 second. There we go. There we go. That's probably a bit easier. And then you can see down a bit more. Just tilt the head down. Okay. So I have in this tray over here. Oh, you know what? I'm going to move this over because that one's going to be too hot anyway. Move my kettle over to there with pre-boiled water already in there. So I'll just twist you around a bit so I can catch any chat that might be. So yeah, so in here this tray is I think it's about 120 grams of chunky merino, and it's about an Aran weight really. And this one over here is a merino and alpaca blend. Hiya Anne, morning here. I'm here. How are you? Yeah, I'm here. I'm still here, Anne. Just. I'm getting there, love. So, so I thought a little bit of over dyeing today, a little bit of solid dyeing, so you can get a really good saturation of pigment, so that if you wanted, because sometimes when you dye a wool, and you want it a solid colour, there always seems to be parts, and you don't notice until afterwards when you knitted it up, that there's little faint bits in it that you haven't quite caught. My advice to that is make sure that your wool is really truly soaked. You've left it for a good hour before you even start to attempt to dye with it. Okay, lovely colour. It's turquoise, love. So what I'm doing is I've put in the tray already my dye stock into the base of the tray, and I've added in the first one and I've swished it around. I've flipped it over and it's caught and trapped all the colour on the other side because I want it to be a solid with speckling. And I've done the same with this one. This one's a slight, just ever so slightly different shade because it's caught the last of the dye stock. And what I need to do now is make sure the tray in there, I don't know if I can see, the tray in there, the water is practically clear already. I think you can just about make out it's not a deep blue. It is nearly transparent. So I'm just going to bring the heat up in that. It's already got the citric acid in there. It's got the equivalent of a heat teaspoon, or about 20 grams of citric acid. And this is what I use. Oh, bear my ears. I hope my hairs have been trimmed. It's just Wilko's citric acid, and it cost me about £2.50 or something a box, if you just want to have a little box in the house. Thing is, citric acid, it's not going to go to waste if you feel like dyeing's not for you, because you can use it in the house for cleaning, or if you fancy making bath bombs at Christmas, perfect. So this is just going to saturate away any leftover dye that's in this tray, and then I'm going to speckle it with, hold on a second, just grab a towel. I am going to speckle it with, what have I got? A bit of purple, electric purple that's got the hint of pink. I'm not going to do a lot of speckling. I'm just going to give it a little bit of oomph on top of this colourway. I've got a teal there and a neon yellow. I'm a little bit dubious about the neon yellow, and I think actually I might go for, where's that blue gone? I'll use this one. I'll get rid of the yellow because I think adding yellow to that, such a pretty colour. So if I stick with the blue sort of thought, even though I'm adding the electric purple, which is a neon purple, I think that should bring it out just right, but not too in your face. So I've got a merino alpaca Aran weight and a merino chunky, or an Aran weight, and I've also got this wool here that is actually rosehip. It was on the website, and I'm sure it's a merino worsted weight. So I thought it might be nice to see if we can do something with this and have a play with it. Then I've also got some superwash merino, and I have got, hold on a second, I'll just go and get the tickets. I have got a superwash Blueface Leicester with a UK alpaca and a bio nylon. It's only 50 gram skeins, so you've got about 200 meters worth of fibre on there. And the other one I've got is a Blueface Leicester with Shetland and Tussar silk. Now, top tip, if you're ever dyeing superwash merino or a superwash Blueface Leicester, and I meant to actually Google the information, but if you do any of those, I need to put those tickets in the right place. Add a little bit of washing up liquid, just the tiniest drizzle of washing up liquid to your sink when you've got something that's got a silk blend in it or is a superwash fibre, because there's something that happens, I don't know off the top of my head, but there's something in the way that prepare the actual wool with a superwash that means, Iona, stop scratching, means that when the dye goes into it, when we're dyeing it, it strikes really quickly, and you don't get a thorough saturation of the dyes. And there's something in the chemical process means that we can actually wash it in the washing machine. I will find out what the information is on Saturday if I do a live chat. I'm really not feeling massively chatty at the moment. A couple of you know why, but yeah, if I do a live chat on Saturday, I will look up the information and let you know. If not, I'll save it for my next YouTube live. So yeah, so that's it, and I'm quite happy with that. And this I'll have to get my tweezers out for, my tongs. And I've got this landscape marine dye, which has already got an acid dye pigment in, it's got citric acid already in it. And I'm just going to use my fingers. Now I've got my tea strainer out that I use for dyeing with, and I'll do that later. And I'm literally just going to, from high up, sprinkle that throughout the blend, my wool. And because, now this is the top tip, the wool, when I've soaked it, I've squished all the liquid out as much as I could. And then I've put it into the tray with water, which was about 2.5 centimetres deep with citric acid, or approximately an inch deep. Now, because this is a really chunky wool, it's really brought the level down of the water because the water soaked all into the yarn. If you want to speckle with yarn, you want your pot, your tray with water to be sitting just slightly lower of the top surface of the yarn, so that when the water isn't there and it's not going to make the crystals float around. I think it's because they take all the little hooks in the wool, so there's no resistance left in the yarn. I definitely need to look into it and investigate it, that's for sure, Anne. To be fair, I don't actually notice a difference in the touch of it, especially as you can get superwash in the rovings now, which I have used in a couple of my blends recently, but I can't feel the difference in it. So I've just used some of that marine, and I'm going to add in some of this teal, sprinkle it over, let it set, and then I'm going to flip my wool over. So just sprinkling ever so hot. If you can buy surgical gloves, just the cheap latex ones. If you're allergic to latex, there's other ones as well. I think there's silicone or something like that. You can buy them online. But I'm the back doors are open and everything else, and I'm not doing massive trays of thingy. I know that some people are like, oh, you need a mask on, but I can't have a mask on and talk at the same time. And as I say, I'm only doing a little tray. There's not a lot of powder getting into the air. Right, so a little bit of purple. Try and find areas where those other colours haven't struck. Over there for sure. Along there. Okay. A little bit more. Just for this side with this merino alpaca blend. And I'll give that a few minutes. And then I'll flip it over. I'll give it enough time for the dye to actually strike and stay slightly as speckles. I mean, you could, hold a minute, how is my power so low? Hold on a second. You could just do one side of it. You don't have you don't have to have a lot of speckling on the yarn if you don't want to. Picture's frozen, but you can still see me, hear me. Yeah, my battery was just about to run out of my phone. Not sure why. It should be nearly charged. Yeah, you could, if you wanted to, just leave this, let the dye pot cool down and just leave it. You don't have to speckle on both sides. If you just want a little bit of speckling, a little bit of colour, then that's fine. I mean, that's your prerogative. It's up to you how you want to do it. But it's just such an easy thing to do. Less is more, I would say. And I think now I'm thinking on it, I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, do I really want to put any more on it? Maybe, I'm not sure, but I'll have a look in a minute. I might add just a dash of teal on the reverse of it and not have too much purple. Yeah, I might do that in a minute, but I'm just going to let that set, the dye on the top. But the key is to speckling is make sure that your water table is slightly lower than the yarn itself. So I'm just going to wash my hand of this dye. There we go. Okay, so that won't take long to do. It's been sat there simmering for a little while anyway, while we're waiting for the last of the dye to strike. Turn it around, and when you're doing this as well, you don't want the temperature too high because you don't really want your water bubbling. I mean, it will pop and you can hear it popping, and there is a steam on it. The popping is just that the heat trying to get through the yarn in the gaps, that's all, but it's not simmering at all. Okay, so I'll just give that a few minutes, yeah, and let it do its thing, and then we'll stick that in the sink and I'll get another yarn in. And the next one is going to be a neon with black, ink black striping. So I've got ink black, I've got a neon-y coloured purple, I've got fluorescent pink, and I've mixed the fluorescent pink with a little bit of neon yellow, and I've got a neon yellow that I intend to put on it. So I'm now deciding whether I want to do it in stripes or if I want to do it a little bit wishy-washy. Haven't made up my mind. This is the thing, sometimes you start off with an idea and then when you come to do it, it sort of evolves. But we'll see how it goes. This shouldn't take too much longer now. I might turn up the heat just the tiniest of bits. There we go. So how are we anyway, Anne? Oh, I've done a thing. Well, I've been knitting. Hold on a second, I'll go and get it for you because I got myself a little bit confused last night. I'm knitting the Celtic Myth shawl from wool that I ordered the other week there from Coastal Colours. Well, I ended up dyeing it myself. I actually put a picture up on my Instagram the other week there, and I'll just pop and get it. So I'm dead chuffed with myself, Anne. Very, very pleased with myself. Very pleased. So this is a baby llama mixed with tussar silk and, mulberry silk and linen. And I dyed that in this really soft dusky blue. And it's got hints of lichen and little bit pops of, trying to think of the word now, like a mulberry, but not much. So it's all tangled at the moment. Hold on a second. So I have got a half moon shawl that I've knitted myself, and now I'm about to start on the Celtic band, which confused me because obviously the circle's going down the bottom, but the way that you knit this one, the band onto it, is you leave all the stitches from what you've knitted because apparently you're knitting it top down, which means that I use these stitches to cast on, and as well, you're not casting on, you're joining in the band that goes around the shawl, and it just seemed to confuse me last night. Like, right, put that down, I'll figure it out later on. So I figured out what it is, and it doesn't look odd, but it's still a little bit confusing as to how it's going to turn out afterwards. So I'll try and put this somewhere where there's no dye anywhere. So this is seriously soft, that wool. I bought the undyed yarn from Coastal Colours and it was on special offer, 100 grams for £13.50 I think it was, which is not too bad at all. But I don't know if you're able to see the picture of the actual shawl. Can you see? So this is the bit I'm doing now, that Celtic band down the bottom. So yeah, so this apparently is the top bit where my needles are currently sitting, and then I'm knitting the band and attaching it on at the same time. So it's Celtic Myths, and she has 2 downloads. You can do it in a DK and you can do it in the fingering shawl. On Ravelry the pattern's on there and it's free, which was even better. But she's got loads and loads of patterns on her website. The Celtic Myths half circle shawl with a beautiful Celtic border. The shawl will be worked top down, and then we knit the border from one side to the other while fixing it to the body, and it'll end up being about 150 by 50 centimetres. So yeah, I'm actually quite enjoying it. It's got me through last weekend, that's for sure. And guess who's printed off bobbins? Yeah, very pleased with myself. You have no idea how long I have been trying to get this sorted. So it's got the bearings in it. So I have got a couple of these. Way too difficult for you. Socks are your limit. Oh well, I've got one sock that's past. It's just come up to the ankle now. But that's one of those things where I've got nothing else to do, and it's just out of scrap wool. So yeah, so bobbins will be coming up on the website next week. I should potentially have 5 because I've only got enough bearings for 5 of them. So yeah, they are going on the website next week. I'm just chuffed to myself. Yeah, take up a lot of filament, and it took 18 hours to print this off. A little bit of fiddling in the top, and I need to get some glue to fit that into place. But yeah, very happy with myself. So I've got 3 printed off upstairs already, and I have to print off a neon one for a customer as well. She wants it in fluorescent. So dead chuffed with that. So I'm quite happy with the way this is. And you just touch, I'll turn you around again. Just touch and dab you will with your tongs, and just make sure that, oh no, there is a little bit of bleeding in there, and right, I need to put my heat up a little bit more. It's still got quite a bit of saturation, it still has to do, and I don't want to move it until it's completely done. And I don't think I'm going to speckle on the other side of it. I'm quite happy with the way it is. So it'll be quite splodgy, not completely. Oh, do I want to turn it over? I don't think I do want to turn it over. What I'm going to do is put a bit more teal on this side. Bit more teal on this side while it's up high. And then that should make up for the blue and purple being quite dominant on this side. And then when it becomes a skein of wool, it will not look as if it's been overtaken, but there's not too much going on it that makes you think, or wince a bit, like, oh, that's a bit much. Right. Right, just give that a few more minutes, and then I'll stick that in the sink. So yeah, so I've got some bobbins that I've been printing off. I've got some niddy noddies that I've been printing off the last couple of days as well. And I've got the extensions for them. I was going to do them as sets because just me and my brain, I think everything should match. But what I'll do is I'll stick them on the website like Maria does over at Hairy Dog Crash. Look, I've got a moustache. I have no idea what that is. That looks like turquoise dye stain. I'll print them on as separate items, and then if you want to buy them, because if you bought them both together it would be 17 quid, otherwise to buy them separately it's £9 each for the extensions and the niddy noddy. So yeah, I was doing them as a set, but I think that's putting people off. And I can't think of what else to start doing. He says I've got to do my Pokemon, but I'm really not in the mood for doing Pokemons on the printer at the moment. I just want to, and a Lego man. I just want to get as much bits and pieces put to one side. So even if I have to get the bearings once I've printed all the bobbins up, then at least they're done and out the way. But I need to start doing my tablet weaving cards as well for when we go on to the next stage of my my videos of back to basics, because I really want to start from that side of things when it comes to actually weaving. I want to go back how history started, like I did with the drop spindle. And that's another thing I'll be printing off, is some drop spindles as well. I just need to get the right size dowlings, which I'll just have to wait until I've got some pennies, because I've got no pennies. Right, I think that's looking about right. This water's just the right temperature, so I'm going to plonk this in and carry this over to the sink. I shall be back in a minute. I've got water in my sink, and I always do this. Water in my sink with some fabric conditioner. That's all I use. A cup full of fabric conditioner in my big sink of water. If you're using a basin, just use half a cup, because you don't need a lot of it. And what it does is just help bring down the pH balance from the citric acid that you've been using in your tray. And it gives your yarn a really nice smell when you're working with it. So I'm just going to pop this over here and plonk the lot in the sink. There we go. Quick rinse. Back over here. I'm not putting the heat on yet. I'm just going to throw in my citric acid. It's there. And my scoop. And I've got, it just says a tablespoon on my scoop. So I don't even put in that much. There we go. You don't really need a lot, unless if I could get all the dye out of here in one go. That one I wanted to save, and I didn't want to agitate the wool too much because it's got the speckling on it. Okay, so there's my tray. I'm going to get some superwash merino now, and I'm just going to grab two of them. So I've done two listed together, and I'm just going to push them down in the water. Now, the water is sitting right underneath, soaking. It's sitting like I could go speckling on that right now. But remember, I'm going to be adding in other dyes that I've already got mixed up over here. So I could probably do with pouring some of this out, because that might end up overflowing when I add the dye stock in. So that's enough. So I just poured a bit of that out. That's better. Now I'm going to just start adding in my colours. So I'm thinking stripiness with this one. So I'll start up the top with the black. I'm only going to use about half of this. Get my tongs out. Just peel back your wool a little bit. Pour in a little bit under there so it sits. And then you're getting a true saturation of the colour you want through the centre. And I've got no heat going at the moment, so I'm not really agitating the wool to the point that it's going to cause it any issues. Try and make sure that I get that completely covered, because once this black's gone, it's gone. And superwash, as I say, it strikes really, really quickly. There's no real time wasting. So I don't want to put the heat on, because once the heat's on there, then it really will start trying to attack into the wool and settling in before I'm even finished doing what I want to do with it. Right, so I'm going to get that bit there as well. There we go. So that's as much as I want on there. I'm quite happy with that. Okay, so now I want this really bright, vivid purple colour. Hiya, Mary. So I'm just going to pour that between the black here and then over that section there. And I'm going to use my tongs again, and make sure that there's enough in between the layers, in the wools, down underneath, that I'm not really leaving any bold sections. I mean, I don't mind a bit of white coming through. It's not a massive deal when you're doing it like this. Now, this really brilliant pink. There we go. So that's in there. Pour it through. Right. Next, I'm going to add in just a line of this pink and yellow, fluorescent yellow and fluorescent pink mix into that, and then some fluorescent yellow on the bottom. And I'm going to turn the heat up pretty high pretty quickly just to get it setting in there and striking into the yarn as quick as possible, because I don't really want them to bubble into each other and lose the characteristic of the colours that I've put together. So leave it like that, give it a few minutes. So you see what I've, let me see if I can get you down. So this is what I've ended up with. A fluorescent yellow into orange pink, this really vibrant purple colour, and then into black, which looks really, really bright and striking. But what I'll do on another one, which I've got the blends in the Superwash Marine BFL and Shetland, and there was another one as well. I'll get that in a minute, and I think I'll do the exact same colours on a pair of those, but instead of doing them as a solid colour, I'll do them as just pouring stuff over, just so you can get a look and see what it is that I do and what other people do to strike the balance that they're looking for when dyeing with their wools. So really all you want to do is make sure that your dye stock has gone all the way down to the bottom of your yarn, and then it's going to sit there and it's going to penetrate through, and you should end up with a really good saturation of colour. And just give it a little zhuzh now and again. It's not going to, this is superwash at the end of the day, it's not going to do it any damage. You can fidget with this and fart arse around with it as much as you want. It's not going to damage the wool. Okay, so I would say I'm going to pour in a little bit more of this pink. I want to save a bit of this because it's going on the other one. So that I'm very pleased with. So I'm just going to give that a few minutes to let all the dye stock saturate away. I am going to put a bit more of black. I'm using ink black from, it was Kaleidoscope dyes, but I get these from Siobhan. I could probably buy them directly from Kaleidoscope dyes, but when I'm buying some of these dyes, sometimes I like to support people like Siobhan Crafts, because at the end of the day, you're supporting another crafter, and that's what counts really, as far as I'm concerned. But this black I really like. You can, if you water it, I mean, it's a really good, decent black. And you can water it down into a pretty decent grey colour as well. It gives you a really nice grey shade. I'm just going to pour a bit of that in there. I don't want too much liquid because the next ones are only really skinny yarns. But I'm really quite pleased with it. What do you think? That grading going into there, it looks really quite smart, doesn't it? I'm wondering now whether to do one that's a black and then do the purple, turquoise and aquamarine, which is a neon, into a yellow for another one, so I get two of these superwash merinos as a gradient. I think they're quite smart, quite striking, so I might do that one next. I think that'll look really good if I did that on the other version of this, and then do a wishy-washy one on my thinner yarns that I've got. Yeah, I say thinner yarns, my smaller weights. I've got two 50-gram skeins of some blended silk and superwash wools. So I think that's what I might do. I'm just going to move my towel out of the way, and I'm going to turn this around. Move my kettle out of the way first. And there's always a lot of zhuzh in your trays around when you're doing this as well. Yeah, I'm quite pleased with that. I think that black is completely gone. There's no black in that water at all. Looks amazing, but how will it look knitted up? Well, to be fair, I don't know. I think you would end up with like a striping. But it's the same as, I mean, lots of people buy the wools that are like this. This ends more, it's got a lot more black, but then you'll end up with thinner lots. I take inspiration from what other people do, and I have a go myself, because I've only just recently started coming into knitting, so I always think of art yarns and how it's going to look knitted up. But the yarns, I haven't got a clue. I can tell you what a bat's going to look like when it's spun up, but yarn wise, I haven't dabbled enough in it yet to see what it's going to look like afterwards. But if you were to do, I mean, I suppose if you're doing a longer project, like a shawl or a scarf or something like that, you're going to end up with longer colour sections coming in. If you're knitting a pair of socks with this, then you're going to get quite a bit of black. I'm trying to think how it would knit up. So one strand would go purple, pink, orange, yellow, and then yellow, orange, pink, and then it go back into the black. So you probably have if you're knitting a pair of socks, for instance, you're probably looking at 2 or 3 rows in the black, and then it'll start the transition through the colours. I can't see much wise pooling wise, but yeah, you'll have to let me know, Anne. You'll have to let me know, love. Right, do I want to flip this over? This is the one thing about flipping, so I don't know. Right, ever so gently push that back up there, the black, put that back a bit, and I should only need a dab of dye just to cover in these sections. There we go, that down there. Where's the tassel on this one? Flip that over. There we go. Push that back. Just be really ginger when you do this. Right, I'm just going to quickly go over the tops of these. The black looks like it's doing really well, so I'm quite happy with that. I'll go back over on the purple section, so just add in a dash of the purple, because I can always redo my dye. So that's quite happy with that. Adding a bit more pink. And a bit more of the orange. There we go. I'm just going to leave that like that. On a bit more yellow, I think I might get away with. And this definitely won't take long. I think that's struck already, I would say. Right, turn that down a little. Yeah, I would think, Brenda Cleese, hiya Brenda, need to read Yarnitecture. Yes, I do need to read Yarnitecture again. I would imagine these type of yarns to be used for sock knitting more than anything else. It's not something, to be fair, it's not something that I dabble in that much. I like my speckled yarns where I've just got a dash of colour, but I do get asked to do these. So these graded yarns like these for people. I'm not quite sure what it is that they do. You'd think as a dyer, and I always chastise people for this, you'd think as a dyer I would know what it would do, but I have to admit I'm not completely clued up on all of it properly. I do have books upstairs that I need to sit and read through, but I don't do a lot of dyeing of yarns, that is. I don't do a lot of it was always customer based, and I ended up with lots of leftover, just in case I'd end up not doing the job as well as what I thought I would do. So just doing what people have asking for customer orders. So they've never asked me what am I going to get out of it, so I've never had to go find the answer, Anne. Thanks for putting me on the spot, love. After the week I've had last week, I'd have started crying with that question. So I'm just going to turn my tray around again. And what time are we at? Right. So I think one more, and I'll do a splishy sploshy one, or shall I do a speckled one? No, I'll do a splishy sploshy one. This is nearly done. I haven't got much more dye stock left in this. It is practically used up. I just need to get this end. Yeah, this is all clear, and that's all clear down there. So I just need to get this to do its thing. Thank you, Brenda. I mean, I think it's not like you can split your yarn in half, really, is it? I imagine it to sort of knit up a bit like a fractal spin. I know that you can get some yarns. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to put you on the spot. Just curious. And it's fine. Sweetie, I'm new to it like you are when it comes to dyeing yarns. As I say, a lot of the yarns that I've done over the years have been done for custom orders. I've done custom Christmas advents as well in yarns, because it's not something that I feel I can dabble and play around with it, and I can create the colours that people are asking me for, and I can do these sort of techniques. But on a practical level, I'm not this type of yarn work. I'm not sure what it's going to do. I think it just makes some really, really pretty, fun, funky looking socks. And I think that's what it's been used for. But I'll find out. I'll look it up for next time when I do my next live. Right, I'm quite happy with that. And I'm going to take that off the heat. And stick it in my sink. I don't feel the need to have a lot of water in this one. I'll stick a dash in, but I don't need a lot because the yarns that I've got next, right, this is the one that are just, it's 100 grams, it's two skeins of wool in a blend, and I'm just gonna, these ones I'm just gonna do wishy-washy. I'm not going to put any thought into it. I'm just going to put a dash of this and a dash of that, flip them over, and then see if I need to do any colours on the other side. And instead of pouring black on, I'm going to do a bit of speckling with it. So I need some citric acid. I'm just going to sprinkle it in. I don't need a lot. I'm going to turn this on again. go. So I've got my neon yellow, and I'm just going to pour a bit in like that. And I have got my peachy mix that I put in. That'll do for that. I've got no purple left. Where is it? Slimming. Just a dash of this. I don't need a lot. Kettle. Right, so this is a blend. I will just go and double check, but I think it's the Superwash Blue Face Leicester, just 2 sips. It is Superwash Blue Face Leicester with a UK alpaca and a bio nylon on this one. So I've put multiple zip clips on the ends of them. These are handy to do, so you can just grab your fibres out if you need to flip them over. You can get reusable ones. What I used to use was shower curtains. The loops of a shower curtain. I've got one over here. Then, they're really handy, but they do break eventually because obviously they're in the heat. But you can get the really soft plastic versions of these, not the hard plastic, which are easier to work with. So I'm going to add in some pink. That'll do. Don't think I want to add any. Yeah, I'm debating, but I don't think I want to add any black to this. I'm quite happy with these really happy colours, and what I'll do, once this dye saturates away in a minute, I'll reverse them over and try and do a bit of speckling, I think. I'm going to turn this tray around and do some speckling on the back side of it once it's all evaporated or saturated. That's quite nice. It's a slightly wishy-washy. That's the style. This is a similar effect that I did to the wool that I used for my shawl, but I put the water. I put a very pale, light version, probably a 10% dye stock solution to 200 grams of water, and I added it in straight into the tray, and then added my yarn in to create a base colour. And then I just went a little bit wishy-washy with the 3 colours. I don't ask what those will look like knitted up. Well, that's what I'm just saying now. This will knit up very similar to how my shawl is, where you're getting splashes of colours throughout, like on my shawl here. It's hard to tell with this one because it's such a dark colour. But this one was first put into the pot with the dye stock solution was already in the tray. I got my skein of yarn and I put it in, let it soak, flipped it over and added in another 50 mils of the same dye stock solution into the water and let that soak up into my wool. And then I came along with 3 different colours that I knew would complement it. There was a dash of lichen, there was some a darker version of the blue that I'd used, the dusky blue that I'd already used, and another colour. And I just on this side of the wool, I just went in and did a bit of wishy-washy. And then once I did that and it all saturated through, I then ended up turning it over. And because the dye hadn't come through all the way through, I didn't want to put on more liquid. So I thought what we'll do is use the exact same colours, but just speckle over the top of them, which is what I'm going to do with these in a minute, once this side has taken up this orange that's down at this bottom. So yeah, you'll end up, because this I've not put any solid colour in the tray, it's just on a natural base. You'll end up with a nice wishy-washy coloured wool that's nothing in particular, but you'll have little pops of colours throughout. And I always think that if you're doing like a lightweight summer cardigan and you're ordering your wool like this, and it's got a pattern work on the yoke or something like that. I think these types of wools are really good for that because they just pop out a little bit more, especially if you're using, say, like a cardigan that the yarn's mostly purple, or is a main colour of purple, or a soft peachy colour, or even a blue, or whatever. It'll just make that colour pattern work stand right out as well. So I think we're just about there. I'm going to flip this over. There we go. Flip it over, turn that, and then try and attack some of these areas that haven't got so much defined character to them. They're very pastel-y looking. But I'm just going to add the slightest hint of a touch of speckling on the reverse of this solid colour. I don't want to overkill it. I don't want to do that, but I do want to add a little tiny bit of definition to it. So where's the colours that I used? Probably behind me. Gold, pink, where are we at? Where's it gone? Oh, there we go. The tiniest hint of fluorescent pink on some of these sections that are quite bare and don't really have much character going on, or it's bled in and it looks a little bit wishy-washy. So I'm putting the pink on the areas where there's orange and purple, and a dash on the yellow, but not too much that it just looks mad. And I'm going to use some of this vivid purple colour, and I'm going to put it on some of those areas over there where the purple's not quite come through and it looks a little bit bled out. And again, this is sat under a water table that's not above my yarn, so that when I put these extra speckles on, they stay in place because the heat is holding on to them. And then I think I will go with, what have we got? Traffic cone. Right, turn that around. I'll show you all these on perfect for warp then. Yeah. There's no restrictions of how it's going to look when you're thinking. That one that I've just done, that would be fine for a warp as well. Firstly, it doesn't have a nylon in it, it's just a superwash merino. But you'll end up with a transition, so like a space colour. So pick one colour out of that wool that I've just done, even if it's a black for doing as your weft. Then you're going to see pops of colours in different lines and different areas of your pattern work on your weaving. If you want to do that, if you're using a 4-shaft loom or something. But yeah, there's so much potential. I think I look more at wool and dyeing wool from a weaver's point of view than I do more from a knitter's point of view, because that's partly why I started dyeing yarns for myself, is because I wanted to create the colours I wanted to suit the hand spun yarn that I had created for doing from a weft. So yeah, I look at dyeing wool in a different way from people that are dyeing up for knitters. I just see the effect that I could get from that, because if you're using that other one where you've got the black and then the streaming colours going through it, you're going to end up with maybe a black up the top end of it, and it's going to cut to the black's going to turn up in the warp, say over I don't know, a 3 foot yard warp. It's going to turn up at least 6 times, and then you come through on the other side, it may only turn up 4 times, and then the other way coming back down. So, but then you've got a transition of colours. So when you're weaving that way and you're doing big diamond patterns, you're going to get pockets of colour all over the place. And it can look quite magical if you're using it when you're using just a plain coloured weft all the way through. It keeps you entertained because you're wondering what it's going to look like on the next section. Right, quite happy with that. That's going straight in my sink. Bear with me a second, I'll just wash this off my hand. Right, wash off my hand. Where's my towel gone? I'll put it over here. Yeah, so if I do get on for my live on Saturday over my Instagram, because we're at 50 minutes now, if I get over there on Saturday for my live gram, we'll see how I'm feeling. I'm not going to make no promises, but I will try and get on, and I'll show you what I did with these wools afterwards over there. But I think I'm going to do a blue, purple into no, a black, purple, blue, turquoise, and the aquamarine, which comes out a really vivid green. It's really quite pretty, so I think that'll look quite striking. Then I'll do the same with the colours that are left over in the dye pots, do the same on the other, I think that's Shetland and Blue-Faced Leicester with the Tussar silk that I've got over there, and 50-gram skeins as well, and I've got some big merino chunky ones to do. I was going to do the over dye, but I haven't got time today because I've been on it for about 50 minutes, and I need to go and find my yarn architecture book and see what it was I needed the answer for on. But yeah, I will try my best to get on Saturday. I'll see how I'm feeling. Spinning video again next week. Definitely a spinning video, but I need to think about how I'm going to do it and what I'm going to do. I think I might do adding locks onto a yarn if anyone's interested in that, or adding beads. Thanks for all the info again, really appreciate it. Take care. I'm doing brill. Thanks, Anne. I need to get rid of this. I look like I've got a Hitler beard with that piece of dye on the top of my nose, my mouth. Right, so I'm off now. Take care of yourselves, sweeties. Behave, and thank you very much for turning up and seeing me today. I really do appreciate it. And you can rewatch this tomorrow. It will be back uploaded, and hit those thumbs up on my YouTube channels. It really does help. I had a video the other week there that came out, and I've had 240 views on it and only 1 like, and I'm like, what's going on? So please really do hit that thumbs up when you're watching. If you don't like it, then fine, I totally understand, but it just helps people find me. And that video I did the other week, that was one of my best, and it got up to like 150 in 72 hours with not a single thumbs up. Anyway, take care of yourselves, speak to you later, see you through the week, bye.